So we need to talk about one more kind of special case with inequalities before we solve these next few. So I'm just going to give you a basic inequality. Let's say we have 3 and 5. And now, which way would the inequality open? Remember, the alligator opens towards the bigger number since 5 is the bigger one, or you can think of this like as Pac-Man or something like that. But you can see that it's going to open that direction. Now, this might seem crazy, but I'm going to do something kind of wild. I'm just going to multiply both sides by -2. So I multiply this side by -2, and I multiply this side by -2. Why? I don't know, just because I felt like I want to see what happens to these inequalities. -2 times 3 is -6. -5 times 2 is -10. And remember, if we've got a number line, -6 is here, -10 is out here, -6 is going to be the bigger of those two, right? So now our inequality is opening this direction. Now, what happened there, right? Do you see that our inequality was opening towards the 5, and now it's opening the opposite direction? And this kind of brings us to a point that we need to know. Let me just go ahead and show one more example. Let's say we have -10 and -20. And right now we know that -10 is the bigger one, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide both sides by -5. And -10 divided by -5 is going to give us a +2. And -20 divided by -5 gives us a +4. And then you see again what happened to this sign from here to here. We see the sign, it flipped, right? The way it was going. So this brings us to a really important point, and that is if we multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, we are going to flip the sign, okay? Okay, sorry, let me get back to these problems. I went ahead and changed one of these for you because I kind of just wanted to just do this a little bit differently. So we're going to work back up on this first one. When we take a look here, we're trying to get this r by itself. We see there's a -3 next to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by -3. And remember what I said over here. When you divide both sides by a negative, right now 4 is greater than 1, but when we divide both sides by a negative, we see the sign flips. So we're going to have the exact same thing open in our case. We're going to have r, and on the right hand side we're going to have -7, and since this inequality was opening towards the left, we need to go ahead and flip that sign when we divide both sides by a negative, and our final answer is going to be r is less than or equal to -7. Remember, that's less than or equal to. Again, I like to draw a line under the or to help me remember that's when the line is. So the set notation is going to be, again, we take the answer we got, we put a line in front of that, r in front of that, and these fancy brackets. We're going to graph that. It's kind of the whole thing. We do the set, the graph, and then we'll write the interval. So the graph is, we're going to put -7 here. This is less than or equal to, so remember less than or equal to is to the left, and since it's or equal to, it gets a square bracket, so we put the square bracket there. So finally, sorry about this, we can write the interval, and the interval would be, again, this is going to the left forever, so -infinity to -7, and we see since this one has a square bracket, this one will get a square bracket, and we'll put a round bracket around the -infinity, okay? Okay, so I'm going to erase this stuff so we can take a look at this last one. 5 is greater than or equal to x divided by -2. Remember, this stands for division, right? Fraction bar stands for division. What's the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by -2. Over on this left-hand side, we're going to have -10. On the right-hand side, these are going to cancel out, and we're just going to have x. But remember, if I had something like 5 and 11, it's opening this way. When I multiply both sides by a negative, we'll see what happens. Again, what happened to our sign? This is the bigger one. So when you multiply or divide by a negative number, we're going to flip the sign. So you see it's opening towards the 5 right now. I need to switch this sign around. Set notation is going to be x. Ooh, wait a second. I'm not ready to write the set notation. I always want my x on the left-hand side for the set notation. So I'm going to make this like this, and I'm going to make sure that inequality, you see how it's opening towards the x up here, so it's got to be opening towards the x down here. So our set notation is x such that x is greater than or equal to -10, squiggly brackets. Our graph is going to be -10. Greater than or equal to is the stuff to the right, and then we put the square bracket around it. And then finally, how do we write this? Well, remember it starts at 10 and it's going to go to the right forever. So our interval is going to be from -10 to infinity. -10 gets a square bracket because you see we have the square bracket there. Infinity gets the round one.